Good morning. Today we're going to finish up Unit 2 and we are going to solve multi-step absolute value equations. Remember the steps from the last lesson. First, get the absolute value bar alone on one side. Do not distribute. Then write two equations with a positive case and a negative case. Don't ever change the part that's inside the absolute value. Always change the answer part. And then solve each equation to get your two solutions. Let's go through 4 problems here, and then you're going to try the last 2 on that page by yourself. So first thing you need to make sure you do is get the absolute value isolated alone on one side of the equation. So notice here, I have an extra minus 3. So we're going to cancel that by adding 3 to both sides. So I'm left with the absolute value of 1 plus 2n equals 33. Now, once I get to this point where my absolute value is alone, I can split this into 2 equations and find each of those answers. Okay, so when I do that, 1 plus 2n is going to stay the same in both equations. The only thing that will change is that 33 will become negative in the second equation. Okay, so again, I don't change the part that was inside the absolute value. So for each of these, the steps to solve are the same. We'll just get different answers. So subtract 1 from both sides, you get 2n equals 32. And then divide by 2 on both sides to get n equals 16. Try that again. And then the same steps on the other side. We are going to subtract 1 from both sides to get 2n equals negative 34. And then divide by 2 on both sides to get n equals negative 17. Okay, and those are your 2 answers. Number 2. Okay, same idea. We're going to isolate the absolute value on one side before we can do anything else. So I have 2 8s that we need to get rid of. The first one I'm going to take care of is subtracting 8 from both sides, so minus 8 on both sides, to get 8 times the absolute value of x minus 9 equals 32. Then we need to divide by 8, since they're right next to each other. Do not distribute, to get the absolute value of x minus 9 equals 4. Now that the absolute value is by itself, I can write 2 equations. Remember the second one, the only difference is that 4 becomes negative. Solve each of those, you have your answers. So add 9 to both sides to get x equals 13 for the first one, and add 9 to both sides to get x equals 5 for the second one. Okay. Next problem. Notice that we have an absolute value on the top of the fraction, but there's extra stuff that's not inside the absolute value, so we need to cancel that before we can do anything else. So a big fraction is really just a division problem, so I'm going to multiply by the denominator on both sides. So I'm going to do times 6 on the left side, which cancels, and then 5 times 6 on the right side gives me 30. Let's write 5 again. Okay, once I get the absolute value by itself, we're going to split this into 2 equations. The first equation stays exactly the same. The second equation, the only thing that changes is that 30 becomes a negative. Once I'm here, I'm going to solve each equation and get my final answers, and I'll be good. So minus 10 on both sides to get negative 5x equals 20, and then divide by negative 5 on both sides to get x equals negative 4. Okay, same steps on the right side. Subtract 10 from both sides. You get negative 5x equals negative 40, and divide by negative 5 on both sides to get x equals 8. Okay, I am going through these fairly quickly, so if you have a problem keeping up, make sure you hit pause, rewind, stop, ask questions if you have them. Last one. Extra stuff outside the absolute value, we need to get rid of that first. So we're going to leave this alone. I need to cancel that minus 3 and then negative 7. So I'm going to start with that 3 because it's the furthest away. I'm going to do plus 3 on both sides. So those cancel. I get negative 7 times the absolute value of a divided by 5 equals positive 7. Then I divide by negative 7 on both sides to get absolute value of a divided by 5 equals negative 1. Remember that we can't take negative 1 steps anywhere, so we actually don't have a solution for this problem. Okay. I want you to try the last 2 on your own, have them checked when you finish, and then move on to the practice. And once you finish that, there is another practice quiz and a Unit 2 assessment number 4, and then review for your final test. Have a great day.